Welcome to Freedom Talk. Emerald, welcome. Good to have you on my show. This is quite a turnabout.
I know. The roles are reversed. It's good to see you, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you too. Well, I want to thank you, Emerald, for all the coverage that you've given on my efforts on behalf of Parents Demanding Justice Alliance and parents across the country to really get inside the DOJ and expose what's happening there. Not only what happened under Merrick Garland, but what the temperature is today and what's actually being said behind closed doors. And, you know, for me, Emerald, it's a pretty daunting thing to walk into the DOJ that's persecuted you and your family for years. And I'm sad to say that my experiences with the DOJ thus far haven't been great. So I wanted to talk to you today about, maybe I'll ask you first your perceptions of what I've reported. And then I also want to talk about any kind of pushback that you saw from the DOJ from reporting my story. And then if you have time, I have 7 minutes of new video from the inside. So we didn't get to talk about it, but I'm not sure how much time you have today.
Yeah, I have like half an hour.
Oh, great.
Look, you're just one of many people that I have heard having or expressing disappointment with the Trump administration DOJ. In fact, I mean, it's something I basically talk about every day on my show, The Absolute Truth, on LindellTV, LindellTV.com. I get pushed back, just not on your story, Kelly. I get pushed back on almost anything I cover about the DOJ, because it's not just the weaponization against parents, which has been, I think, is the lowest hanging fruit. For me, having been covering politics for well over a decade now, having lived in the swamp and worked in communications, basically my entire adult life, it's such an easy win for this Trump Department of Justice, right? Even with parents across the aisle, because I was just talking to a mom from Fairfax County on my show that I just wrapped up at 1 p.m. On LindellTV. And my last segment, so if you want to go back and watch it, is with a mama. She's Mama Grizzly from Fairfax County. I'm talking about how our state schools are still, the public schools in Virginia are allowing illegals in. She was one of those moms that went to school board meetings in 2021. I remember her sending me pictures outside of the school board meeting with DHS cars, the DHS unmarked cars outside of the school board meeting under the Biden regime, right? They weren't there because there were illegals around or they need to be picking up. They were there targeting parents, good Americans who pay their taxes, don't break the law, but are concerned about what's going on in our schools. And so many of them, and this is what she said to me today. She said, look, the people who are upset about adult illegal men who are currently being enrolled, and that is happening in Virginia public schools, particularly Fairfax County, the majority of them who are joining me being upset about it are Democrats. It's your Democrat soccer mom that they always want to appeal to, right? Come elections, like this midterm election coming up. So it's low-hanging fruit for the Trump Department of Justice to particularly stand behind you parents. Let's forget about election fraud. Let's forget about accountability for Arctic frost, which we still aren't getting. And I'm actually wondering if Arctic frost is still an active investigation, right? Based on some of the issues ongoing banking issues that I'm seeing with people. I'm now hearing from people who were targeted under Arctic frost, feeling like they're under surveillance again.
Yeah.
So let's leave that aside. You parents are the easiest issue that they could get behind. And yet when we reported on it, I had you on my show. I talked about, I knew nothing was going on. You're not the only parent that I talked to, right? You're one of a dozen. You're the one who's willing to get out there and publicly, no matter what they've done to you, and I know what they've done to you, you're willing to still be bold and courageous. I don't blame others who don't. I don't blame them at all.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
It is so hard and overwhelming to have not only your government not back you up, right? It's one thing if they don't back you up, but it's a whole nother thing if they use the full arm of the government against you as well. So I understand it. But when we started reporting on it and we shared our segment on socials, as we do, we thought it was a very important segment for people to see. So it was one we highlighted on our social media. I started getting calls from my friends in social media, who often repost me. Some of them I don't even really talk to on a regular basis. Some of them, I barely know, saying, you're not going to believe this. The DOJ just called me. And they're concerned about some segment you did, like one of your posts that I reshared. And some of them didn't even say anything about it. They simply just hit, retweet because they thought, oh, well, this is an important story. And they shared it. And the DOJ personally called to ask them to unshare it. And they didn't say that it was false. They just said, well, you got to what was told to me, of the conversations from the people who had them with the DOJ, they just said, you just have to understand the context here. Understand why we haven't really made a move on that. Now, some of the people they called happen to have been weaponized against by the Biden regime as well, right? Whether it was Arctic Frost or it was J6. They literally called up people who had been targets of J6 investigations, went to jail, and people who had lost everything in Arctic Frost and said, hey, can you just unshare this from your social media? Can you just take this down? And these people just were incredulous. They were like, wait. I have not heard from you at all about accountability for my personal targeting for what the DOJ did to me under the Biden regime and everything I lost. You're calling me about some segment Emerald Robinson did that I just retweeted. And so it kind of backfired on them, in all honesty. And it didn't really work, but it's just wild. And I thought, gosh, you could have taken this time to call the parents and just said, instead of calling around to social media influencers, getting their numbers and calling them, and it happened also on personal phones. Some of them, they didn't use their DOJ official phones, right? Because they didn't want to necessarily have ties. We're like, let me call you on my personal phone. They could have just called up some parents and said, hey, we want to hear you. We want to listen to you. What do you need? And then they could have immediately started working on this, particularly for Todd Blanche, right? Who wants to look like he has a different track record than he has. He could have started right there and started, building a better track record, but that's not what they did. And I can tell you, this is what's happening on as it relates to election fraud. They're not trying to do anything about that. They're trying to shut people like me up on that issue as well. They're not trying to do anything about, in fact, some J6 people were told, we're done with that. Harmeet Dillon said, we're not doing that. It's over. Get over it, basically.
Well, I agree with you completely. There are many, many people, not only among targeted parents. I've done my best with Freedom Talk to help a number of people, and some of that's going to come out in the clip I'm going to share with you. But really, I think Americans from all over the country should come together and say, hey, under the Biden administration, the responsibility lies firmly on the shoulders of the DOJ that they weaponized against a lot of categories of Americans. We've seen that the abortion protesters are getting some attention now for what is that act? It's not the state.
Yeah. So now that Todd Blanche wants to be Attorney General, he wants the official nod. They're finally addressing the situation where the Biden regime wrongfully went after pro-lifers for the FACE Act. Again, that's low-hanging fruit. So that's an easy win for them because most people would, agree that was massive overreach and just terrible. I think they even still had like an active investigation into Pastor Hoke, right? Who had gotten, he was a Pennsylvania pastor that had been arrested under the FACE Act. And I remember that whole situation. It was just terrifying and just disappointing. So he's finally doing that. And now we're finally going to get a weaponization report of some kind that I have been assured by many inside the DOJ could have been released mid-year last year. This is not like, it's opportunistic timing as Todd Blanche goes out there and does his media hits on Fox News and then tries to buy, because he and, Harmeet Dillon are competing for the nomination, essentially.
Gosh. Yeah, I agree with you. People who are not directly in this fight, those of us who are, we don't want them to have to be, because they've really been victimized. It's hard, I think, sometimes for people to understand. We've all heard about J6, and atrocious things happen to people who just wanted to have a voice, but very similar things happen to school parents, being arrested, being jailed. I know a school mom in Arizona who was jailed for 5 days to quote unquote make an example of her and teach her a lesson in county jail. She went in, she came out, she was just really scarred and put into trauma at what she saw. I have a son who worked in corrections. I know what they see in there. And she still has a warrant out for her arrest. And you'd say, why? She went to jail. Well, it's because she refused to write a letter of apology because she didn't do anything wrong. So I looked at this, and July 15th, we had a press conference at DC. Moms for Liberty, Moms for America came. A lot of other organizations, some parents, including one that you've talked to, came to tell their stories. It was sponsored by Representatives Andy Ogles and Andy Biggs. And I found out at that time that Ed Martin, who we had expected to come, who we had been talking to, didn't come. And someone from the inside told me that Todd Blanche had prevented him from coming. So this put a question in my mind. I didn't really even know who Todd Blanche was. I'm trying to get my arms around all of this stuff. And I said, well, my first words were, well, I guess I'll have to talk to this Todd Blanche fella, because that's what dads do. Show me where the problem is, I'll take care of it. So I went in objectively saying, who is this Todd Blanche guy? And is he impeding things? And then in continued meetings with Ed Martin, I had some very interesting experiences. And I'd like to beg your indulgence here for a moment. I was waiting for this file to download, but I have about a 7-minute clip that I think is very telling. This clip is from inside Vance Day's office. It was January 23rd, 2026. And I didn't go in intending to record. I have this little recorder. I left it in the car, but I decided to record on my phone when I started hearing some things. So this is audio I have not released yet. And by the way, in this meeting, I found out apparently even before President Trump knew that Ed Martin they had tried to fire him, and that the weaponization working group was shut down. So I'm going to go ahead and play this.
The federal government can't fix a lot of what happened.
That the federal government broke?
The federal government breaks a lot of shit, but that doesn't mean that the federal government, then you need to sue the federal government.
With what money, Vance? With what money?
Okay, well, you want me to give you the money? I can't give you the money.
No, but this is where parents are at. We have had our lives devastated.
If you want to give me something that shows document A says this, federal this, this, I am positive that the federal government influenced the county police or whatever. I bet that happened. I bet it did. But that doesn't mean you have a cause of action.
It is in black and white. I've sent you links to it.
No, you haven't. You haven't sent me links.
I sent you the link to the Americans for Liberty report, the smoking gun report. We sent you the dossier. I'm the first name on the dossier. It is all there. We took my case and some others, and we put them in a file, and we sent them to DOJ. I don't know what's going on with Ed, but we sent that to Ed. We brought it to Vince Haley. We've talked to him in person. I sat there and personally told him my story. We've been all over the media. I don't want to be contentious.
The Merrick Garland memo of October 2021 may go down as the most noxious,
This is the one, yeah.
memo in the history of the Department of Justice.
So this, by the way, is audio that was playing in the background during part of this meeting when Vance wanted to show me this video, which seemed to me more like a propaganda piece than truth. Some of it was true. I'm not going to discount this administration has done some great things, but I want to show a contrast between what's being said in this video that you're going to hear in the background and Vance Day's seemingly complete lack of understanding of the issue.
Okay. If your mom and dad showing up at a school board meeting, somehow you need to be investigated. Somehow you're a threat. You're a domestic terrorist threat. They went one step further to the Garland Department of Justice to actually take away parents' rights. If that weren't bad enough, then they went to the Department of Justice under Garland and specifically said, you can go into school board meetings and treat these parents as terrorists.
The Attorney General well understood it without any help. And he just took the awesome power of the Attorney General's office and he placed it at the disposal of a group of activists who wanted to frighten and silence by frightening parents who had traditional values.
Because of the chilling effect that the actions of the Biden administration had on parents. There are a lot of parents in our schools today who are afraid to do anything about it because they saw what happened to their neighbors.
It really is a dark day for the Justice Department that Merrick Garland would allow himself to be used in that way. Attorney General Pam Bondi withdrew the memorandum, and I think that's an important corrective.
There is a vast gulf right now between all of these people and the American people who are still struggling. Parents who committed suicide, estranged families, and you can do the PR all you want. And I'm not trying to be hostile here, but I'm here to tell you the reality. In the court of public opinion, it's not going well right
I'm
now.
not worried about the court of public opinion.
You should be.
But then do your thing. I cannot change what public opinion is.
Understand that they wanted to take our children away. They took our home. We had death threats. A guy who was online threatening to kill my family multiple times. The FBI investigated me for that. He took us to court. It's hard to come into the DOJ that for so many years was pursuing us, making our life difficult, targeting us, calling us terrorists. And the first time I came here, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to the belly of the beast.
That got to be triggering.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had never been arrested. I thought I'm going to go to jail and be away from my family. That was terrifying for me. I'll be honest. But to come here and to say there's different people here now, and now we can work with these guys and we can resolve this. That's what I want. I want to resolve it. I know you can't fix my life. That's up to me. However, I think there are some simple, tangible steps that everybody, from the media to the public to even government officials I've spoken to, representatives, they say this is a win for the Trump administration. And I haven't had high hopes that, well, I thought maybe through the Department of Justice, eventually we can adjudicate this, we can get some cases. I've been told there's a fund if you sue the DOJ. That's an impossibility for me. The statute of limitations alone. However, I think there are some really incredible positive things we can do. I think that film's going to be good. I think it's going to be even better if you have a press event with these parents and kids and my daughter who says, I want President Trump to get me a new bed because we couldn't take my bed when we had to flee Tucson. The PR potential on this is massive. And the shot of adrenaline in the American people who frankly are going really negative right now is immense. And I want that for my country because I want to see this administration succeed.
I know.
That's my heart. And if that was any different, I would have taken $2 million back in 2021 as a settlement for that first arrest. I would have fought. I chose not to fight for myself because I wanted to help everyone else. And we want to believe in you guys. We want to help you. We want to make this a win for everybody. I'm the one that has to hold my wife at night when she's weeping. We adopted a little boy for a single mom who went to prison for J6. We expected to keep him for 4 years. She ended up being there for 2 years. We love the American people. We want to help. I meant to say 2 months. She wasn't. Thank God she wasn't in there for 2 years. But I'm a little nervous in the DOJ, so things slip. We want to serve, but even so, when the J6 people got their pardon, my wife texted me. I was traveling. She said, "I have mixed tears of joy and sadness because I'm very happy for these people, but I dared to imagine that we could have something like that too." And I think the very simple thing of recognition of the DOJ publicly acknowledging and apologizing to what happened to these parents and holding them up, that's huge. If we never get an ounce of justice or restitution, that in itself will be amazing for people. And I think it's not as heavy of a lift as J6 or saying they were patriots and, all the politics there. I think these politics are easy because who's going to believe a school mom is a terrorist? I mean, honestly.
Well, and I agree with you on that. When you put stuff out into the biosphere of the media and says, you better do something by January 15th or else. My response is somebody who was a journalist and has a master's degree in terrorism. My response was,
Why not supposed to be recording your...
Yeah, don't record that. So my response, as well as the whole DOJ, was, we don't negotiate with terrorists. Do not threaten us.
Where was the threat? The threat was to say, we're just going to talk about how nothing's been done. So this is more of the meeting than most people have seen, and I did put it into context, and I don't want Vance Day to be fired. What I'd like for him to do is recognize that he got a second chance at life after being, by his words, persecuted, and to sit there and say, don't expect anything from the DOJ, when the DOJ has clearly, demonstrably attacked school parents. These people are heroes, and I don't care maybe if some of them have said some words they might later regret or gotten angry or not known how to go through the process. Everybody that we've talked to in the media, everybody who has a conscience says this should have been taken care of on day one. And I'll tell you something, Emerald. Roger Stone has gone and talked to the president about this. Others have as well. And I've heard Peter Tickton apparently went and talked to him. I've talked to Peter a number of times. And I've heard, because people speak out, there are people in the DOJ who are good people and care about the American people expressing some concerns. I've heard that the DOJ has actually gone out and tried to get a hold of influencers and media and influence them, possibly even put people on planes to go meet with people personally. And I don't know if that's coercion or manipulation, but look, it's very, very clear. We don't have to go through this whole thing again and investigate. We have an executive order mandating that this administration resolve this issue for parents. It is in black and white, and part of that executive order.
I do want to address something he said. Actually, Vance Day is one of those people. He is one of the officials from the DOJ who called people related to my segment with you and asked them to take it down. So he did personally make phone calls. Funny who he called, the whole story. I heard him say, well, sue the DOJ, right? Sue the DOJ. And you're like, with what money? And here's what I do know about ongoing litigation against the DOJ, whether it was the J6ers or some other people that were targeted. It's not like they're rolling over and saying, okay, you're suing us. The DOJ was in the wrong, case, we agree. There you go. They're fighting these. They're fighting.
They are fighting it. And
America's getting issues. So who knows how long that litigation is going to go on and how much money it's going to cost. It is so easy for him to sit there and say that. And I know this is one of the complaints I get from a lot of people who are fighting the DOJ. They're like, you're not going to believe this. The Trump DOJ is fighting my case on this. So, and just the fact that
Ed Martin was standing up for us. He was gathering information. He sent out a letter on behalf of one of the parents acknowledging that the federal government was responsible for all of this. And I don't care which court people were tried in, state, county, whatever. Merrick Garland orchestrated all of this. And I like to say, if you hire a hitman, arrest the hitman, investigate the hitman. But who hired that hitman? Merrick Garland did all of this. It's all there.
Well, and they very publicly made it clear from the federal level, right? When Merrick Garland was heading up the DOJ, what their directive was to state and local governments as it related to parents. I mean, they didn't try to hide it. It's in the public record, and their objectives, and so it's and like I said, just like sending federal vehicles outside of Fairfax County school board meetings, that's well documented as well. So, it's not like there's not a clear line. There's a very public line of coordination from the federal level. They didn't hide it.
This is still happening, and under Todd Blanche's watch, his number 2 guy is still referring to parents as terrorists. Now, on the point of suing the DOJ, Senator Josh Hawley covered this in the same October 7th hearing where Pam Bondi falsely testified to Congress after this hearing that was promised the parents with her had been canceled and not rescheduled. She claimed that the whole situation was taken care of when she had done absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. Harmeet, I like Harmeet. I know her. I don't know where she is on this. We've talked to her, but nothing's happened for these parents.
From what I've heard, she's, as far as weaponization goes, she thinks it's like a moot point. So she wants to be the attorney general.
Why don't you come drive my dented minivan with almost 300,000 miles on it, Harmeet? why don't you try to rebuild your life at 56 and tell me it's
Well,
not
she
right?
told me she's just a broke government worker, or she said that about one of my
We,
tweets.
we,
Did you not see
then
that?
we should expect more than
She
that.
got
Look,
community noted, by the way. The community note says that she's worth $11.7 million, but she told me that she's not paying anybody to influence for her because, and she knows she was misdirecting the argument anyway, because it's not
she should
she who
know
pays, it's PACs that pay
Yeah, she
to support her.
represented Amanda Ray and all these parents. Charlie Kirk was at the press conference at the time, who had been surveilled by a creep of a school superintendent, and they had a file on them. So she should know. She should be very sympathetic. But beyond that,
And her law firm did do some good work in the civil rights area right prior to her taking. Now, I pretend not to have much faith on her based on her leaving Carrie Lake high and dry in the election fraud suit. But now, as far as, civil rights issues went under the Biden regime, I talked to her law firm lawyers on, a few different cases that they were working on, right? So it's not to say that she couldn't have, that she hasn't done some good work. I do think she has. I don't think she's strong enough in it. I haven't seen enough evidence from her in her role at DOJ currently under the Trump administration, and based on statements I've heard from behind the scenes, or, just the way she publicly attacks me. She publicly attacks me, because she, instead of just doing something, about what I'm being critical of or reporting on, she's another one of them who will have people she knows that are close to me call me and try to say, well, Harmeet is this. And I'm like, I'm fine to report it when they actually do something. I'll be their first cheerleader when they do it.
You got two people here who can talk, and we do sometimes quite a bit. But at that same October 7th hearing with Pam Bondi, Senator Hawley got up and said, look, this issue hasn't been fixed. We need to fix it. And he brought up the point. These parents don't have the resources to bring a suit. They don't know how to do it. They're just trying to survive. And again, not to be a martyr, but because of the intensity of the federal government's attack on me, and look, I am in all the documents. It's all there. We've lost our house, our savings. We had to flee the place we wanted to raise our family. We had finally gotten a house together. All that's gone. And that's in that dossier. If you go to realfreedomtalk.com, you can see the dossier on the Parents Demanding Justice page. And by the way, if you'd like to donate, much appreciated. I use it to fight this fight, even to get gas. But, here's the thing. Like I said in the recording, there's this vast gulf between these people in DC and the rest of us, because for them, it's about career, prestige. I literally, this parent you and I have talked to, I saw an email that he forwarded to me where someone said, please don't copy Harmeet Dillon on your emails. It wastes her time. What the hell did we vote for to have this attitude? I've always liked
not the first time I've heard that.
But the optics on this are bad. So I'm asking, where is President Trump in this? Because like Sam Sorbo said, President Trump is the parent in chief, and he should move on this. And this is what we're asking for, an apology, first of all, from the DOJ, because I have a son, a child, who's estranged from me because people convinced him that all this stuff about me was true. I want to be honored by my government for doing the right thing, for standing and holding the line in a way that some politicians are now taking credit for, but weren't.
If you do that, when you do sue, they've admitted liability and culpability.
And when I say I mean everyone.
I know, but I'm just pointing out. And look, they have endless resources to fight any kind of civil litigation where you're trying to get restitution, right, for the economic damages, the emotional damages, and there are very many and easily well documented, very verifiable, that they would have to then pay out, and they don't want to.
Well, I have been talking to a lawyer. He thinks there's a strong case, but he also said, Kelly, I got to be honest with you. We're a high-level DC firm, and we're not cheap. And he said, if I was in practice, maybe we could do some advertising trade in Freedom Talk Magazine or something, but I'm with a firm. So I'm looking at this saying, I know it's right. The government has admitted it. The president has put out executive orders that haven't been followed. Todd Blanche is straight up lying and trying to cover up the truth. What do I do? Because I have to figure out how to pay my bills next month. And it's been really a rocky ride to get back up after what they've done.
Yeah.
I applied for a job. I have an internet record. I have a bogus criminal record. this is what we're facing. So if Harmeet is saying this isn't a priority, maybe not for you, but we pay your salary and we got you into office, and it damn well better be a priority and quickly. And that's not a threat. You saw my demeanor in this recording. I have never been threatening. I've always wanted to work together. I've offered my services, offered other people to volunteer. If this is how government works, we need to alter the government and maybe get back to our foundations of why it exists in the first place.
I think that's what we thought we were doing with electing Donald Trump in 2024. But I agree.
That's what I thought too. And people ask, is he aware of it? Well, I know that people have gone to him personally, but we haven't heard anything. I've asked that maybe Sam Sorbo and I could sit down and talk with him. Sam wasn't targeted, but she did a lot of work. She's having to take care of family matters now. But a lot of us have put a lot of work and time and effort and expense into this.
Mm-hmm.
And
I also think
told
Melania Trump is known to be such a mama bear for Barron, right? And they had some bullying issues because of his, Donald Trump being his dad. The media obviously targeted her son, targeted her as a mother. So one would think this would actually be a very, very good in her portfolio, right, to be an advocate for the parents and to, advocate for you all at the DOJ. She could also use her bully pit, I think.
I think so too, and we've tried to have maybe some people talk to her. I hope that if she hears this, the female side of the Oval Office can have some compassion, and that's why I'm doing this, because I have seen these people. I've talked to them. I've wept with them. I've tried to navigate my family through this, and I care deeply about these people. And you and others have told me if you keep talking, they're going to come after you. Well, so be it. Give me liberty or give me death. We're supposed to love our country more than ourselves. And particularly if we're Christians, we can't pass by those people bleeding in the ditch. We're supposed to go bind up their wounds. And so far, for these people, this isn't a golden age. They're still emotionally, financially, physically, in terms socially, they're living in the Biden era, and they're still being attacked, and nobody's coming to their rescue. I know, Emerald, you spent a lot of time. Do you have any parting words? I think it's egregious that the DOJ has tried to influence journalists to kill a story. Censorship.
Well, I will just leave you with this. The Harmeet deal had made it very clear over the last 2 weeks where her priorities are. We're talking about journalism, and we're talking about, constructive criticism. She retweeted Cat Turd, that constitutional scholar there, saying that we should go after influencers. Now, conservative influence. Now, I know they're alluding to me, though I'm a journalist. They try to discredit me because my reporting has been so staunch on them. But what they're saying is she retweeted that as the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. What they're really saying is they want to go after anyone who's critical of them. How is that different than the Biden?
That is, and that's the attitude of the DOJ right there. You heard it on my recording. If you hold us to account, we're going to label you a terrorist. Nothing has changed. If that's the stance of DOJ, nothing has changed. And President Trump needs to deal with this immediately and decisively, because Todd Blanche can get up and deny that weaponization is happening. Well, I just brought forward the proof, and I have more. And Harmeet, first of all, knit me a cap. I've been asking you for years. But second of all, remember the oath that you took to the people. And it's not to go after people who differ in opinion. I think we're all mature and wise enough to make our own decisions and separate the wheat from the chaff. Read FreedomTalk Magazine, Harmeet. We'll do some of that there. So look,
if she does the right thing, you'll feature. I'm sure you would write a glowing piece for her if she did the right thing, right? Freedom Talk.
I will, and I said that.
Beautiful feature, complete with a stunning picture.
Prove me wrong. Make me look bad by doing the right thing. Just for God's sake, help these families, because they deserve it, and they deserve it a long time ago. I've been fighting this fight for almost 6 years now. I'm tired. We live in trauma, and I was dragged through 3 days of court, treated like a felon over misdemeanor 3 trespassing, which I wasn't even guilty of. Sentenced to 100 days in jail. $10,000 was stolen out of what was left of our equity when we had to leave. They tried to go after our kids with CPS. Come on. Harmeet, this is so relevant. If you don't do this, if you think this is irrelevant, then maybe you should find another job.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Emerald, for your time.
Thanks,
You
Kelly.
spent a lot of time. I
Appreciate
appreciate you reporting on all of this. And yeah, just thank you so much.
I mean, they've told us supposed to shut up. I guess we'll just keep talking. It's good to see you, Kelly. Thank
Oh,
you.
good to see you too.
America's founders warned that without knowledge and virtue, no nation can remain free. Yet through the steady infiltration of Marxist ideology, we have been stripped of both, and we are no longer a moral and educated people. To save America, we must spark nothing less than a national renaissance. That's why you need FreedomTalk Magazine, the journal of truth and virtue. We cultivate enlightened thinking and principled living, offering unique insights into the issues and remarkable people defining our world. Sign up today for your free subscription to FreedomTalk Magazine and join the new American Renaissance.